Hello, and welcome to another episode of Candid, where we have real talk with real people. My name is Anise, and I'm here with Shanae, Bethany, and Dudley. Today, we're just going to go over what's happened in the news in the past week. I'm going to start with the FNM's new elect. So the FNM has 3 candidates for party leader. They've already picked the party leader, but I'm just going to go over the 3 different candidates. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about Chairman Carl Culmer. He made a statement to The Guardian before the convention, and I think it should be talked about because it's very pertinent to the issue. He said, when you're a leader, you have to listen to the people around you. A lot of the persons around the leadership were saying that too. When you're the leader, especially when you're in government, you wear 2 hats. One is government and running the country, and one is running the party. You must not forget the vehicle that got you to be leader of the government, which is the party. And the party was saying certain things, and the persons in the party who know politics were saying, hey, this is not the right time to do that. There were things that needed to happen. You don't pass a budget in July, call an election in September, but there was a lot of advice that was not taken to or adhered to. He was saying this to Minnis, as he felt that his decision to have the election early was a bad choice, and the candidates were not ready, and he should have spoken to them. And we saw this afterwards, as Minnis had to apologize not only to his candidates but to his FNM supporters. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I agree with the statement that you should always listen to your people, and there were a lot of complaints about him, and it just seemed a lot really disjointed sometimes when they presented themselves. So yeah, I agree with what he's saying.
Like Shanae was saying, I do agree with the chairman's statement. Throughout the FNM's term, especially at the latter parts, you could tell the disconnect within the party. And at the ballots, we really saw how the party kind of dissembled, and how the members weren't pleased. I know, for instance, I don't really follow parties, but I do have this one coworker who is a big FNM, and according to him, the party was just not feeling the decisions that Minnis were making. And of course, it didn't even have to be subjected to the party's opinion. Most of the country wasn't really on his mission he set out for the country while, going through the pandemic, and also before that, having Dorian wreck Freeport and Abaco. So these statements doesn't really come as a shock to me. And I don't even follow politics like that. What about you, Dudley?
I mean, it's not really surprising to hear that, they weren't. There was a disjointed series of thinking between the former prime minister, currently leader of the opposition, and the rest of the party. I mean, it almost seemed like for some of the members of the party who were out in the public, it's like they were saying they are supporting him because it's almost expected that you support your leader, right? And we've seen what happened to those that would have spoken out against him. And if it wasn't the party's decision, to hold that election early, then that's just a sign of power getting to somebody's head. And we may never truly know why he called that election the early election. They will never understand or know why he called the early election, sure, because no party wants to go into an election and lose like that. Nobody want to lose like that. And as much as we like to clown on them for losing in that way, the PLP lost worse the last time in 2017. And so both parties have suffered humiliating defeats at the polls for decisions made by their leaders. This time it just so happened to be a snap election. For the PLP, it was the party saying, Perry probably should step down, and he refused to. So it's a sign that when some people become the leader of a party, it just gets into their head, and they never want to let it go, and they never want to listen to other people's advice. They just want to do their own thing. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it definitely shows like the issue of there's no I in team. You have to work together, and it shows that when you don't work well as leader to listening to others' voices. People think being a leader is making all decisions, but it's not. It's collecting everyone's ideas and using them and coming up with the best way of using them together so that at least most of the people can be happy, because you don't want just how he's working for the Bahamian people, but he's also working with a lot of candidates. And if they're not working well together, it causes an issue. And that's why the FNM lost so badly this time. And that's also why the PLP lost so badly last time, because of bad leadership and lack of communication.
That is definitely a cogent point. And while we're talking about leadership, one thing I hope for this administration, this Davis administration, is that they take notes from failed leadership, from Perry Christie, and you can do things to ensure that certain things doesn't happen again, because we have it recorded in history. Like, I mean, we literally lived it. So as far as I see now, Brave Davis, he's doing a very good job, and I have to give him his props for that. But I hope that in the next, because they always have a climax and then they go downhill. So
Yeah.
I hope that they continue uphill to take this country to the next level. Like I said, I'm not a parties person, but I am a nationalist, and I do care for my country. So whoever is in power, I only wish the best.
Yeah, oftentimes when a party gets a new leader, they start off running, or oftentimes when a party gets into power, they start off running, and then they kind of come to a screeching halt in the middle, or even a year or two into it, and then they want to start back up before campaigns. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. We'll see. But you can we all just want to have hope that it doesn't happen. We all know who won. It was MP Michael Pintard for Central Grand Bahama, but then there was also Aram Lewis for East Grand Bahama, and then there was Kwesi Thompson. It sounds bad, but I honestly only know about Michael Pintard. I'm sure I've seen the others' names, but I think it's interesting that all of them are Grand Bahamian candidates. Who do y'all think about that?
Grand Bahama taking over, babe. No, but I mean, on a serious note, I think some people might not like it because we've always had this Nassau-centric view of government. Like, look at all the previous prime ministers. Or, they had something to do with Nassau, except for Hubert Ingram, really. But most of our previous prime ministers have had a very strong roots with Nassau.
Davis, his constituency isn't Nassau though.
Yeah, I know. I was getting there. I was tying it in. You see, I was tying it in. But no, I think it's a good sign now, because as you brought up, Davis's constituency is not Nassau centric. It's in Cat Island. Aaron Lewis. I mean, all of the candidates for the FNM leadership were from Grand Bahama, and so I think it's a good sign and a healthy sign that parties are letting people from out of Nassau take the reign again. I mean, like I said, Hubert Ingram was there once before, and then we had Dr. Menace. But I think it's a good sign. I think that the Family Islands specifically should take it as a very good sign that there's being a much more represented in the high leadership of these parties now. So they can get things done on behalf of their constituents one way or the next.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
From what I've heard about Pintard, I've heard that he has a good character and he's pretty much an upstanding citizen. And so it was good for me as someone who doesn't really check for parties. It was good for me to see that at least they would choose someone based on their character and their credentials. Nassau, yes, we have a lot of smart people. We have a lot of hardworking and independent and determined people, but we also have those same people on our islands. And it was great to see that they were open to the larger aspect of the country and not just Nassau.
they had made some statements before the convention, and based on what they said, I want you guys to choose like who do you think made the best, who had the best to say. So Lewis said that he believes in new blood and that he wants the FNM to get back on track. He said, I do believe in starting from the foundation, giving your youth a seat at the table. They are the future. He will give women a seat at the table as well, which we saw with the PLP administration. They had so many female candidates that won their seats, which was amazing. He said he will listen to the wisdom of the party and he's going to work in a team organization with various associations in our party to get the best way on track. And then Thompson said that the party needs a new direction. The party needs a new vision. The party needs new energy. And that's what leadership begins. I'm confident that after November 27th, the good thing is we will all have a new leader from Grand Bahama, and there will be a new vision and a new mandate working forward. And Pintard had 3 agendas. He said that he's also backed by Shannon Cartwright, which I think is interesting, but he said he intends to reconnect with all the leaders of the organization who are not fully active. He says, I wish he had listed some names, but he also said that he will connect with the FNMs who stayed home on election day because he felt that he wants to see why the party's message didn't resonate with them. And he also wants to have a collaborative leadership with the different factions of the party. And he will also work with the PLP on the legislations that make sense. So out of what I've listed, which of the party members do you feel more comfortable with running the party?
So listening to him, I feel like the right guy won. I don't know if the rest of them also laid out what they intended to do, and you just was cherry picking the things they say. But
I didn't cherry pick.
no, I mean, when you have somebody who says like, I'm going to do this, is a lot different. I mean, mind you, Kwesi and Iram sounded like they were going for the angle of giving people hope, which I think is fine because people need hope, especially those that felt like the FNM is in such a dismal situation. I was like, providing them with some form of hope is a good strategy. But the best strategy of being a leader is like, hey, you guys, I'm a person you're considering. These are the things that I will do, or that I, at the very least, these are the things that I intend to do should you pick me. So pick me because of the things that I want to do. And it sounds like he has a very good idea of what he wants for the party. I'm sure if either Kwesi or Aaron Lewis won, then we would have also seen, they would have probably had a good idea too. But knowing it beforehand, knowing what you're gonna get, or at least the promise of what you're gonna get, is better than going on blind faith and then figuring it out when when it's a little bit too late. It's like, oh wait, no, we voted for you, but we didn't think you didn't think you was gonna be this bad.
Yeah, which is what is odd to me is I felt like the votes actually matched their statements, which is weird. Like Pintard won with 300 votes, almost 300 votes, and I felt that he was the most specific in what he wanted to do. So if he doesn't do those things, then you could hold him accountable for them. Whereas I felt that Lewis was very vague and he only got 44 votes, and Thompson, he said a lot of the right things, but there were a lot of like very hopefully vague things that, it's just like sugar on top of.
Yeah, I mean, because I ain't gonna lie, I getting kind of tired of the angle of politicians nowadays. When
Yeah,
they're like,
but
oh
yeah,
yeah, we're going with the youth, or we're going to have more women inclusion, and it's like, listen, buddy, we expect that. Like,
yeah.
I ain't care. Like, there's seven women in power who's sitting in the government table right now. Like, I ain't care that you want to empower women. Women are empowered now. I ain't care that you want to include the youth in this. We have some of the youngest ministers in power now who just so happen to be women. So like, the two of them done covered. Like, what's new, bro? Like, what more you want us to? You want a 20-something-year-old to go and do that? Ain't Travis did that?
I think too, though, along with his mission statement, it was his character, it was his reputation in the party that made him the viable choice.
Moving on to another topic, the Bella situation has a little update. we all know that her mother is being charged with child neglect, and her boyfriend is being charged with murder. But recently there's been a fight for her body. The attorney for the maternal grandmother, who Bella's body is supposed to be released to, he said that the mother has had sole custody for her whole life. So basically the father is asking for a second autopsy. Do you think that he should be allowed that right? It said, we have advised that Dino Alexander Smith Jr. is the putative father of the deceased and is not so entitled to have control over the body of the deceased or to make a burial arrangement.
No, but the reports that came out initially said that she had lived with her father, and her father's family, and she had just came to Nassau 2 months before she died. So
yeah, because her Grammy did say that she was living with her Grammy, and her Grammy had sent her to her mom.
so that does not make sense to me.
See,
But even so, I feel like, okay, the mere fact that that the child was living with the father, even the father's family, that's still technically her father. And if he signed for her, then wouldn't the rights automatically
No,
revert to the father?
it said the name of the attorney is Bjorn Ferguson, and Bjorn Ferguson said that Mr. Smith never signed Bella's birth register, and her mother has sole custody of Bella.
Mm.
So that's why there's
Okay,
the issue.
okay, I understand. Okay. But even
And that's
so,
why
in
they're
terms
saying that
of
he has no right in the law.
okay, but that's still messed up though, because even if he didn't sign, but he still was taking care of her, I feel like her maternal grandmother, like, who are you, or where were you when this child was being abused, and now all of a sudden you want to take control of this child's life after she's already passed. I feel like that's so messed up. I mean, but hey, I guess I don't know what was going on because it's been a lot of back and forth. But based on what was said, I think that's kind of messed up for you to want to take control now. Why weren't you defending her then? Like, you're a Grammy. I'm sure you've seen her multiple times. You told me you've never seen a bruise or you've never heard her complain about anything.
that's wild. It's like, but I mean, in the video, this is also contradictory because in the video where they were interviewing him at the courthouse, he was like this super mellowed out guy. I kind of find it hard to believe that he ain't signed her birth registry. I guess after seeing her grow up a little bit, he mind change and all that. But
I
if
don't know.
it
You
if
never know the situation because a lot of women, they just go. You don't. Maybe they were having issues when she was
yeah.
giving birth or something.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. You see, the math ain't mathing for me right now because I trying to figure this out. Because it's like, okay, I get it from the law standpoint of, oh yeah, legally you have no right to this child, even though this child is a Bahamian based on the fact that both of her parents is Bahamian and all this other stuff. But it's like the law is weird, bro. Because it's like it sounds so wrong that as the daddy of the child that was brutally murdered by the boyfriend of the mother, because the Grammy is saying you ain't have no rights to this child, he can't do nothing. Like, what
Yeah,
going
it's
on here,
odd
bro?
because they're saying you don't have the right because you didn't sign the birth certificate, but the grandmother didn't sign a birth certificate either. So I would
And
think it'd be passed to
yeah,
the father.
it's like this the whole is like at least give it to the daddy because he ain't a third party in this. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I understand the concept. It's like the mother had sole custody. But if we go on based on the idea of, well, no, because by law, if that's a Grammy and her mommy only have custody, then it technically makes sense because the mommy would have been the next in line to be the Grammy would have been next in line to be the guardian. But at the same time, if the little gal was getting beat, like Shanae say, and you ain't say nothing, then as a Grammy, you kind of failed. So why would you be in charge of the body?
No, because as a Grammy, everybody in the neighborhood, they said they knew what was going on. They knew a little sip, but they didn't know the extent. And the autopsy showed that she had bruises and stuff on her body. So was she never around her grandmother? Was the Grammy never really that much involved in her life to notice those certain things on her body?
So now we just having a bottle of people who, quote unquote, weren't involved in her life, trying to make sure like what happened in the after she did. I mean, I feel as though on a ethical standpoint, which matters not in the court of law. I feel like from an ethical standpoint, it's just there like that's her pa. He know that she want to get he know that she love Grand Bahama. He want bury her in Grand Bahama. Let him bury her in Grand Bahama. That's how I feel about it. But the law is the law, and probably sad to say, probably ain't gonna get that opportunity or distinct or be able to make that decision. So life
Yeah,
hard, boy.
yeah, I agree with you that. I feel like the daddy should have to say, but like you said, based on the law, he doesn't have that, and I feel like it's kind of heartless for Bella's maternal family to be trying to take that away from him. I feel like they should be trying to find some common ground to give this child like the proper burial, because like she's been through a lot in her short life. Come on, man, like just come together and figure something out. That's just how I see it.
I mean,
Yeah.
but in Freeport is where she probably experienced the best times in her life. So I could understand why the father would want to, rest her body there because it was a peaceful time in her life. Bahamas, I mean, not the Bahamas, but in Nassau is where, most of the most gruesome things occurred. And so I could side with the dad as to why he would want to bury her body in Freeport. Like it
Nassau,
makes sense to me.
Nassau also just so happens to be the place where she died, like was murdered. So why would we want to bury her here? Like,
I
strange.
maybe it's just the realist in me, or like I don't like to get into conflict, but I would have just said, okay, do whatever, because as long as she has a beautiful burial, I'm not gonna worry about it, because I know I just want this little girl's heart to be put to rest, her soul to be put to rest, her body to be put to rest, because I'm tired of talking about it. It's such a sad story that I think they just need to let her be. So hopefully they can come to a conclusion soon.
No, but I want justice. I want conclusions. I want justice. I want the little girl. I mean, she was killed for no reason, but like she should at least be happy in death. Like, what's going on here?
You're right. And we're not laughing at the situation. It's just if you don't laugh, you could cry type of
Yeah,
thing.
it is laughing more so because it's uncomfortable. Because it's also like it's so strange. Wait, it is so strange. What's going on? We
It's
just
such an
want the
obvious
gal.
answer.
Yeah, I mean, like, wait. Oh, she was happiest in Freeport. Think we could bury her in Nassau, What?
Okay, so this week we have two great features coming out. Well, great initiatives coming out from the Davis administration, all surrounding the vaccines. And we know during the FNM's administration, we had a lot of disgruntled members of the public because of the lackadaisical approach to ensure that people who had jobs weren't forced and reprimanded for not having the COVID test to get to work. And so one of the initiatives that the Davis administration promised was to render free testing, which they have been implementing in Inagua and North Eleuthera just for a trial testing period. So what do you guys think about this particular test run? And just to note, nobody really knows how much this is going to cost the public's purse. So do you think it's worth it, or should they find some other way to get testing done for individuals heading to work?
If you think about it, right, it ain't really free because you're paying taxes. So you're paying for the test in the long run. And it's also like the initiative where they say they were lowering VAT, but then they put VAT on breadbasket items. It still equals out. It doesn't really benefit you in the long run. So I think a better thing that they should have done instead of quote unquote free testing is ensuring that people aren't fired for not getting vaccinated. Um, Now, if you decide not to get vaccinated, I feel like it's on you to pay that $15 or $20 a week for testing. I think that's okay in my opinion, but I don't think the free vaccination testing is actually a thing. It won't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. First of all, I feel like this is something that should have been implemented from the beginning of the COVID pandemic, because the only way to know if someone has COVID is to get tested. And a lot of times during the pandemic, people could not afford to get tested. And the free options that we had, such as the South Beach Clinic and the hospital, would often take a very long time to get back to you with results. So some people were positive and were walking around for 3, 4, 5 days, maybe even more, without knowing their status. And if they can't afford to get a test of 100 and what was it? When it first came out, it was like 140 or $50. Now it's cheaper, but $150 for a PCR test, because we know that the antigen tests sometimes give you false results, false positives, or even false negatives. So I mean, I think it makes sense. I think it's something that should have been there in the long run. But like Annie said, we technically pay for it through taxes. And I also agree with what she said with the not allowing employees to force vaccinations on them employees, and the price being on you. But I mean, I think it makes sense, because the only way to stop it is
I think
was
it makes sense for PCRs, but for
yeah.
antigens, and I was talking more like for businesses where people were being kind of forced into getting vaccinated
Mm-hmm.
if they didn't get,
I
tested.
understand.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of in a mixed feeling about that, because I've met people who have medical reasons as to why they can't get any of the currently available vaccines. And so I feel like, if you have a legitimate reason to not get the vaccine, which the only legitimate reason really is you have some medical condition going on. If you have a legitimate reason, then you probably shouldn't be paying $180 to get somebody to, you know, dig up in their nose as deep as they want to. However, I also feel like for everyone else, y'all really ain't getting vaccinated because you just don't want to. I's gotta pay for the test. I's gotta pay for them if I gotta take it. So I feel like everybody should just pay if they need one, because it ain't like how many situations are you going to be in where you need a test, mate? Like this
But
very
Dudley,
Uh,
even if you're vaccinated, you still have to get tested in certain
yeah,
situations. So you're not
I
really.
still have to get tested. That's my point. I vaccinated. I still gotta get tested, bro. I paying the same amount. So it's like, what's the big deal? Like I confused on what the big deal is. I think the only benefit I get is that if I want to go on a plane, I get to take I get to take a rapid antigen instead of a PCR. That's the only benefit I get from being vaccinated. Other than that, well, actually, now that I say that out loud, rapid antigens is a lot cheaper than PCR. Still, point is, I don't really see why we need to make it free. I guess I'm also on the knee side, because like I know why we need to make it free, because I know how many situations you're gonna be in where you need to take a test anyway, unless you like to travel a lot. In which case, you probably should be vaccinated anyway, bro. But eh,
And me
I'm
and
gonna
Shanae
disagree
kind of
with you a
think the
lot.
same things. I think me and Shanae think the same things. It's just that what she pointed out was kind of right. Now that I think about it, like some people can't afford it right then and there. So Loki, you still paying for it through taxes, but you can't afford it right then and there. So it is beneficial for those who need it right then and there, and they don't have the funds to pay for it. If that makes sense. Like you paying for it eventually in the long run, but if some people can't afford $120 right now.
Exactly. If you're making $210 a week and you get and let's say someone at your workplace tested positive for COVID, you got two children at home, you got to pay light bill. You don't have $120 just sitting around waiting for you to use it. And it just makes sense in my opinion. And then to say that the only valid reason for someone not to be vaccinated is a medical reason, I think is false, because vaccines are still a choice. And if you feel comfortable taking it with the data that's out, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't make it seem as though like I just don't like when people try to force things on other people. So yeah. And I was
Hold
gonna,
on.
oh, and you said how much instances. So for instance, for me, um, I've been in many instances where I've been around people who had COVID, and if I had to pay $120 for each time, that's a lot of money. Because like we said, sometimes the antigens are false positive. For instance, I had an incident but that was last week, Anise, or this week, where I took an antigen test and it said negative. I took it at 9 a.m. I got it back 9:30. It said negative, and then at 2:30, um, doctor's hospital had called me and said that I actually had tested positive. So I went home, quarantined, and then I had to take a PCR test. I didn't have the money to take the PCR test at that time. So I had to call my daddy and he paid for it. But everybody doesn't have that. And comes out I actually was negative. But I mean, it's just that happens quite a lot. A lot of people have brushes with COVID. So, I mean, that's a lot of money.
No, okay. So I just want to clarify something. When I say the only real reason you have to not get vaccinated is a medical one, I still maintain the idea that if you don't want to get vaccinated, cool. You're gonna deal with the consequences of your actions. You don't have to do it. I don't really care if you get vaccinated because I ain't gonna come. Like I ain't gonna kick down your door one day and be like, "All right, Sinead, it's time. It's time. You getting the job." I don't care that much about the vaccine numbers no more. I don't care. However, from what you saying, so sound like from in your experience, it do make a lot of sense. I have my experiences, and I'll be real. It's probably because I don't like going nowhere. I having a different opinion on it because I don't really know how much people who would have had COVID I've been around because I don't go by nobody like that. So it's my experience, it's me. However, if it could help a bunch of people out, sure, but I don't see the point. If there's a greater point that I'm missing, I ain't dead. I could be wrong on this one.
For me though, I have to side on Shanae's point, because even those who are vaccinated, they can still catch COVID and still spread COVID. And so when you think about that, along with what Shanae has said, quote unquote, free COVID testing for those who have to get it to go to their jobs, for those set of Bahamians, it's very essential and it's very necessary for them to have assistance to, get those tests done. Because like you said, Dudley, we don't want to force people to do something that they don't want to do because it's their right. And the government said that they would do it. So they have to do it.
I don't know. I mean, it must be a lot more places that require it than I am aware of. Because
I mean, but when you
I
look at it, most of the big hotels, they are requiring their staff to
yeah,
receive, and that's a lot of
yeah.
people. And let's not forget, a lot of people lost their jobs, so a lot of them trying to get back to where they used to be. They're trying to pay off their bills, and it's Christmas time, and how Bahamians get. It's just like a lot of stuff going on. So we have to be cognizant of not just our personal experiences, like you said, Dudley, but we have to think on behalf of the Bahamas as a whole. And so I think even $20 could fill up somebody's tank. Like, that's a lot of money. Even $20 to $100, that's just a lot of money for people who sometimes only make $210, $250. Like, before the pandemic started, a lot of people couldn't live with their wages. So Imagine now putting on an extra bill.
You had
You
another
know?
initiative that you wanted to talk about?
Well, how do you guys think about them implementing the vaccine incentive? Now, it hasn't been confirmed yet if they are going to make it a monetary incentive, but Minister Davis, Prime Minister Davis, he did say that the PLP party is opened to it being monetary.
You trying to pay y'all to get vaccinated? I mean, I ain't gonna lie. To me, that's kind of messed up.
I mean, I want my money too, though, because like I already vaccinated and I didn't
I
get no
already vaccinated too, so I would gladly take the money, but on the other hand, it's like, it's like somebody asking you to do something that you don't want to do, and then turning around and being there like, hey, if you do the thing you don't want to do, I'll pay you. A lot of people would do a lot of stuff for money. It's like as y'all been saying, not, people need money. It's been harder to live now than ever before. So if you turn it around and say, babe, if you get a Johnson and Johnson shot, you get X, Y, and Z amount of dollar dues in your account, then I can see a lot of people doing it. I just question, like, is that legal? Like, that sound like a bribe? That don't sound like a bribe to you.
It does sound like a bribe. It sounds like
it's an open bribe, but
yeah. It starts off as, oh, it's free. Oh, $10, $20, $30, $1 million, $1 million.
It's like, you know what? It's like, you know what? Everybody can get $100,000 if you get vaccinated. $100,000. You think that? Wait, I'm sure even the people who I was talking about who medically shouldn't get the vaccine would be like, 100,000. You're speaking my language. I'll deal with the repercussions of my actions with the 100,000. I mean, I doubt it'd be that high, but I mean, like, come on, it's like, it was weird, bro.
It sounds like the COI initiative where every Bahamian was getting $200,000 if they voted for him.
Nice.
No, I mean, it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing to laugh at. It really ain't nothing to make light of. But it's like weird. This bribery is a crime, and incentivize. I mean, I guess when you use the word incentivize, it changes the whole parameters of things. But at the same
you gotta
time,
use pretty words.
But at the same time, it's like, bro, if you don't want to get a it's like I say, if you don't want to get vaccinated, then don't get vaccinated, and you can live with it. Like, everybody who vaccinated got vaccinated, and we got to live with it. So it's kind of weird now when you turn around and be like, oh yeah, we ain't gonna force you to get the vaccine as the government. But I just saying, if you get vaccinated though, you could get this slick $100 extra in your account by the day. And I could just be there like, hey bro, where this $100 coming from? It's like, where the $100 coming from?
Like I had said before, that coming out of our taxes, so that's still my money. What are you talking about?
So they really turning around and just being there like, hey bro, you want your money back? You want your money back? Get shot up, bro. Get this vaccine real quick. I mean, like I say, ain't nothing really to laugh at, but by George.
Yeah, I'm gonna preface this by saying I'm definitely not an anti-vaxxer, right? I agree that everyone should get vaccinated if they want to. It should be your choice. But I think a better way to push it is to have partnerships with private corporations. So it's not my money I get back, for like food vouchers or stuff that people can benefit from. Like you guys are saying, we're struggling right now. So I think a food voucher to Super Value would be a good incentive, or a food voucher to Kelly's, something that would be like a good Christmas gift. Oh, I can get vaccinated so I can have food for my family for Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, as you know, the Bahamas is on track to diversifying our sources of income. We've thought that tourism is a little bit too much of an industry that we depend on. So what happened in the news this week? We got some news that further solidified the idea that we relying on tourism, because Virgin Atlantic Airlines, apparently they have a route in the Bahamas now that opens up the country to having people from India and the rest of the Middle East come here direct. So I thought it was interesting because we always want to talk about how, we want to change the industry that we focus a lot of our time on. Yet here we are once again for doubling down, tripling down really on the idea of like, bro, these tourists are coming. They coming. Now we had them coming from America. We had them coming from Europe. Now we got them coming from India direct. So how do you all feel about our continuing stance to, be the hottest tourist destination with these new airways?
I think aside from the pandemic, this would be an opportunity for the Bahamas. And this is literally just talking about the business aspect, because that's revenue coming into the country. Number one. Number two, we obviously see that the tourism sector, it's gonna be something that they squeeze all the juice out before they kind of switch to something else. So to see that they can still manage some financial income from it, to me, that's something that the country needs at this time, apart from new COVID cases. But the business aspect, I think it could be beneficial.
Yeah, I agree that it could be good from a business standpoint, but I mean, like, how long are we going to focus on solely on tourism? I mean, it's good that we are branching out, besides places like the United States or whatever, like that's great. But I do think we should start to focus some of our resources in other places. But that's great.
Oh, sorry. Y'all know the meme where it's like people in a boardroom and it's like, we need some new ideas. And then two people is like, hey, we could just do this. We could do this. And then the third guy is like, oh, we could do something completely different. And then he gets thrown out the window. Or am I just that big of a nerd? I might be that big of a nerd.
That may be true, but maybe next week we could focus on initiatives that maybe we've been overlooking, because maybe I ain't seen it, because all I've been seeing is tourism and opening up and them being happy about it. But hopefully there's initiatives that we're overlooking.
Hopefully. Oh, we could dream. All right, yes, but the next thing that I wanted to speak to you guys about was I thought this was a very interesting thing. So for those of you who, I'm sure that we all may remember that Loretta Butler Turner was the former deputy leader of the FNM, former leader of the FNM at one point, and she has been appointed by the Prime Minister Davis to serve as a consultant to the Small Business Development Center. It was announced it was announced this week at the briefing from the Office of the Prime Minister in their weekly press debriefing that they have. I think it's a very interesting decision because I can't really remember a time where somebody so prominent in frontline politics from the other side of the aisle, and even though she may have retired herself away from frontline politics, point is she still was the deputy leader and then leader of the FNM at one point, and then she got this. So I thought it was pretty cool, and I wanted to know what you guys thought about it.
Hey, look at an initiative that's not tourism based. Loved it. Hopefully, I do agree with you. It's interesting that they're choosing her, but it also shows like maybe she has some really good ideas if someone from an opposite line, they're supposed to be enemies, would choose her. So hopefully we'll see something new. I would love a small business loan. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's more power to the people. And in this case, it's more power to women as they continue to incorporate a woman's voice in politics. Now, when it comes to the partnership between the different parties, yes, she was highly influential in the FNM party, but we have to remember that she did leave and ran for the Independent Party, and she won that seat, but didn't win it, I think, in 2017. But from then, she stated that she was kind of neutral with the PLP. Definitely wasn't into the FNM party, but PLP, she did state that she agreed with a good much of their parties, initiatives, and their goals for the Bahamas to grow and develop. I like to see the collaboration. For me, it just proves and it just shows that the PLP party, if we give them a chance, they may give the Bahamas something that we're not used to. We're not used to seeing parties combine and bring about a better change, because most times we see them trying to get rid of everyone in the PLP, like making that transition, stuff like that. So to see something like this occur, I think it speaks greatly on behalf of the party.
I think it's great that the PLP chose Loretta Butler to represent them. It shows that, like, see, I think it was Anise said that they're supposed to be enemies, but they're working together, and I think that is how government is supposed to work. Although you're not in um office, you guys can obviously feed off each other's ideas to make a better country. That would make the most sense, because you're pulling your ideas and you choose the best ones that make sense and you go from there. Because just because you're in power doesn't mean that you're going to have the best ideas or all of these grand ideas. So I think it's great that they chose her, and it speaks a lot on the party. So yeah.
And another thing I'd have to say is that I love how they chose her for her credentials and the accolades that she accumulated doing. I think she has some private work she does within the community. So I enjoyed that aspect, not just because she's a woman and that would kind of build on their woman empowerment um, thing that they got going on, but because she deserved that position. She did the work, and now she is benefiting from her rewards, from her labor. I from her labor. So to me, that shows great, I don't know, a great character from Davis administration.
So basically, we talked about this before, I believe, in one of our previous episodes about Toby Smith. He's a Bahamian, and he had proposed a $2 million restoration project for the lighthouse located on Paradise Island. So he showed up again in the news, and he was basically saying, expressing his frustration with the former administration who had granted the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line a minimum 150-year lease on 7 acres of crown land over PI for a beach club project. And this was reported by the Tribune. And the 7 acres included the lighthouse that he was granted. So basically, he was in court fighting to get his land back, basically. So the cruise line was given an initial 25-year extension and will only pay $140,000 per year for the land. So over the course of 25 years, this would be about $3.5 million. And with the 10% VAT, this will be another $350,000 that would be in the treasury. So Smith said that he was not offered a similar agreement. And in fact, he was required to pay more for less time. And it says that the Royal Caribbean is investing $50 million to develop a beach club destination, a move that is expected to generate an extra $26 million in visitor spending. And the same, yeah, okay, I already said that. Yeah. I think this is interesting because my thing is he is a Bahamian, and I feel that if we're pushing for Bahamians to own the Bahamas, which why would you sell his land, send the land that you granted to him to someone else and for 150 years? And I don't know if I'm being unrealistic, but I think that $140,000 per year is too little. And also we don't make a lot of money from cruise from cruises. So I was just like, I don't know where the figure came from, the $26 million, but I just feel like that was kind of wrong, and they're ousting him, I feel, with that deal, and I feel that he should have been put first being a Bahamian and being what he was trying to do. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Bahamians first. And like you said, we already don't get a lot of revenue from cruise ports and stuff because their passengers normally stay on board. I don't really know this gentleman like that, but as far as I know, he was approved by the government to lease that land, and so the agreement that they made, they should abide by that. And I do think that I do agree with him going to court and pleading his case. I don't see how he could lose in this instance. So all the best to him. But this proves to show that our government, for the most part, has always not had like their own interests at heart, because why would you give away land to an international corporation when Bahamians are here saying, give me this land? Not even give me this land, because he was still paying money for it. So it's not like you giving us stuff for free. We want to pay you. We want to own our own land. So why not grant us why not grant us that liberty to do so? We need to stop selling our lands to foreigners, because we already don't have land as is, because they're already taking it all up and for dirt cheap.
I don't want to sound like an echo, but I completely agree. It's like they're always saying Bahamians first. And we've been trying to push this initiative of Bahamians first since independence, before Independence Day. Finland has been trying to push this. But this right here, like when you say, oh, I want Bahamians to have a chance at the same opportunities, and they're like, oh, you guys have the same chance. And then things like this happen where it's like, why is he getting paid? Why is he paying more for something that's supposed to be his? It's crown land. It's our land, and you're selling it to him for more. Like I maybe would have understood if they sold it to them for the same amount or even more. Maybe I would have said fine, but I would have been okay with that. It's the fact that they're selling it to him for more money than they're selling it to the cruise lines, who are going to make hundreds of thousands more than that $100,000 a year. That's just pocket change to them. I think it's ridiculous, and hopefully the issue is rectified. And he could lose, he could lose within years and times and legal money spent. He could lose because he's not a whole corporation like the cruise lines. They have money for legal issues set aside. So I feel that they may even win in this situation, but hopefully they don't.
I think it's important that we remember that this deal was made in the story. It said that this deal came about under the Minnis administration, and for the next 150 years, they're going to only be paying $140,000. We're all gonna be dead by the time the deal goes up for talking. We're all going to be dead and gone, sadly. So we'll never know the end result of this. But I would like to say that if the Davis administration can, which more than likely they can, but I feel as though it's like, hey, y'all need to go back and renegotiate this, because it ain't no way that these people could get 7 acres of crown land to develop a beach club and the expected revenue gain is like a couple million a year. Bro, a few million. Oh Lord. It's so heartbreaking to hear, but it's like every time you want to believe in them saying Bahamian space, you just get one little story. You say, oh yeah, but we said that to win. We didn't really mean that. Sorry you believed the dread. Cause bro, what do you mean $140,000 per year for 150 years? Man, I gotta pull out my little calculator and see how much this is, because I know that's pocket. It's like, and he say that's pocket change to them. That's a whole cruise line way. That's $21 million. Are you serious? Oh. Yeah, but they sold that. They sold Paradise Island Crown Land for $21 million. Ain't that something?
I think that we had a lot of very interesting conversations. And if you guys want to continue the conversation, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Candid242. Keep it real, Bahamas.